Hello, my darling, and welcome to today's story time. If you like what you hear, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And now, on with our story time. Helen stopped wiping the boy's forehead and neatly folded the cloth, draping it over her son's brow. She gently placed her hand on the boy's chest and looked over towards her husband. He moved impatiently around the cellar, his cigarette dangling from his lip, waving the little radio around in the air for reception. The radio was just emitting static at varying levels. "Harry," said Helen. He continued fidgeting with the radio. He went near the walls and stairs, holding it high and still spinning the dial. "Harry," Helen repeated. "That thing can't pick up anything. We're in a dungeon." Her rising tone of voice stopped him, and he turned and looked at her. She was about to cry. Harry felt himself overcome with anger, but he could not think of words to say. His face was twitching, his emotions searching for some vehicle or expression. Then he suddenly pivoted violently and flung the radio across the room. He began shouting, "I hate you, right? I hate the kid. I want to see you die here, right? In this stinking place. My goodness, Helen, do you realize what's happening? Those things are all over the place. They'll kill us all. I enjoy watching my kids suffer like this. I enjoy seeing all this happen." Helen's head jerked towards him. She looked at him with what was almost vengeance. She spoke. "He needs help, Harry. He might die here. We have to get out of here. We have to find a way, Harry." Harry shook his head in anger. "Oh yeah, let's just walk out. We can pack up right now and get ready to go. And I'll just say to those things, 'Excuse me, my wife and kids are uncomfortable here. We're going into town.' Helen, there's maybe 20 of those things out there, and there's more every minute." She began to cry. "There's people upstairs. We should stick together, you said. Are we fighting with them? Upstairs, downstairs, what's the difference? Maybe they can help us. Let's get out of here. Let's go upstairs. Let's do something. Let's get out of here, Harry." A pounding sound interrupted her. They listened. The sound was coming from the door at the top of the stairs. "Harry," shouted Tom. Then more pounding. Harry just stared up at the door. He did not answer Tom's call. Tears welled up in Helen's eyes. More pounding. Helen looked at Harry. When he did not respond, she got up and went towards the stairs. Yes, Tom, what do you need?" Harry ran after her, grabbing her shoulders from behind. Harry, it's Tom," said Helen. Tom shouted through the door. "Hey, Harry, we got food and some medicine and things up here." Harry stared up at the door, speechless. Tom said again, "There's going to be a thing on the radio in 10 minutes. Harry, a civil defense thing. They'll tell us what to do." Helen looked up at the door and shouted, "We're coming up, Tom. We'll be up in a minute." Harry said, "You're out of your mind, Helen. All it takes is 1 minute. Those things get in up there, and it's too late to change your mind. Don't you see that? Can't you see that we're safe as long as we keep that door sealed up?" "Harry, you're so wrong," said Helen. "I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. I want to get out of here, to go upstairs, see if someone will help us. Maybe Karen will be okay. Her shouting stopped, and she took control over herself. She stepped towards Harry and spoke in a calmer tone, almost pleading. Harry, please. For just 1 minute. We'll go up and we'll see what's up there. We'll hear the radio, and maybe we can figure out some way out of here. Maybe with all of us we can make it, Harry. Harry, his adamancy weakening somewhat, took a cigarette from his mouth, exhaling the last puff, and dropped it to the floor. He rubbed it out with his foot. The smoke came in a long stream through his pursed lips. Tom was shouting again. Harry, hey Harry, Ben found a television upstairs. Come on up. We'll see the civil defense broadcast on TV. Soothingly to Harry, Helen changed her tone to relieve the onus Harry must feel in going against his original decision. Come on, let's go upstairs. There'll be something on TV that tells us what to do. You can tell them I wanted to come up. Harry's voice was gruff. All right, this is your decision. We'll go up, but don't blame me if we all get killed. Her eyes fell away from his, and she led as they went up the stairs. The cellar doors swung open. Helen and Harry stepped together into the hallway, but faltering, they peered through the entranceway into the living room. Harry, standing beside his wife, is hostile, partially due to anger with himself because he reneged on his decision about the cellar. Helen, too, is overwrought. She was anxious, and her eyes darted everywhere. They saw only Tom and Barbara in the living room, and Barbara, overcome with nervous exhaustion, was sleeping fitfully on the couch. Tom spoke. We can see the broadcast, I think, if the TV works. I have to go help Ben. Helen went to Barbara, looked down at her sympathetically, and brushed her hair, pulling the overcoat over her shoulders. Poor thing, she said. She must have been through a lot. During these moments, Harry has been anxiously flitting around the house, from door to window, to kitchen, to living room, checking out the actual degree of security, and he worried about the imminence of attack at any second. Helen, said Tom, I think her brother was killed out there. Ben was yelling from upstairs, somewhat upset. Tom, hey Tom, are you going to give me a hand with this thing? Tom was startled, aware of his procrastination, and bolted for the upstairs to help Ben. Harry paused momentarily in his anxiety and came to sit where his wife was, near Barbara. Helen spoke. Her brother was killed. This place is ridiculous, Helen, said Harry. There's a million weak spots up here. There were sounds from upstairs of Tom and Ben struggling with the television set. They were making their way down the steps. I don't care, said Helen. There's people up here. Why don't you do something to help somebody? But Harry, not really hearing her, was staring once more into the gloom outside. I can't see anything out there, he said. There could be 50 million of those things. I can't see a thing. That's how much good these windows do us. Ben, the truck driver, who with Tom has reached the landing with the heavy television set, has heard the last part of Harry's remark. He glowered, even as he moved with his end of the burden, but said nothing. He and Tom gingerly deposited the TV in the center of the room. They hunted for an outlet, found one, and slide and walked the set until the cord was close enough to be plugged in. Ben kneeled behind the set to plug in the cord. Harry spoke. "Wake that girl up. If there's going to be a thing on the TV, she might as well know where she stands. I don't want anybody's life on my hands." "Harry," said Helen, "stop acting like a child." The truck driver was on his feet now. "I don't want to hear anything more from you, mister. If you stay up here, you'll take your orders from me, and that includes leaving the girl alone. She needs rest. Now we're just gonna let her sleep it off, do you understand? And nobody's gonna touch her unless I say so." Ben stared Harry down for at least a moment, to ascertain that he was at least temporarily silenced. Then his hand plunged immediately to the television set. He turned it on, and the occupants of the room jockeyed for vantage points, and they are baited for a few seconds of dead silence as they all waited to see whether the TV would warm up. All eyes were on the TV. A hiss began, increasing in volume. Ben cranked the volume all the way up. A glowing band spread, filling the screen. "It's on," said Helen. There are murmurs of excitement and anticipation, but the TV only shows nothing. No picture, no sound, just the glow and hiss of the screen. Ben's hand races the tuning dial through the clicks of the various stations. "Play with the rabbit ears," said Harry. "We might be able to get something." Ben fussed with horizontal and vertical, with brightness and contrast. On one station he finally got sound. He adjusted the volume. The picture tumbled around, and he played with it for a moment until finally bringing it in. Full screen was a commentator in the middle of a news report. The people in the room settled back to listen. Authorities assign little credibility to the theory that this onslaught is the product of mass hysteria. Authorities advise utmost caution until the menace can be brought under absolute control. Eyewitness accounts have been investigated and documented. Corpses of vanquished aggressors are presently being examined by medical pathologists, but autopsy efforts have been hampered by the mutilated condition of these corpses. Security measures instituted in metropolitan areas include enforced curfews and safety patrols by armed personnel. Citizens are urged to remain in their homes. Those who ignore this warning expose themselves to intense danger from the aggressors themselves and from armed citizenry, whose impulse may be to shoot first and ask questions later. During the telecast, there are mixed feelings and reactions, but these responses were sporadic and infrequent. The predominant mood of all involved is to learn as much as possible from the telecast. The TV commentator continued. Rural or otherwise isolated dwellings have most frequently been the object of frenzied, concerted attacks. Isolated families are in extreme danger. Escape attempts should be made in heavily armed groups, and by motor vehicle if possible. Appraise your situation carefully before deciding upon an escape tactic. Fire is an effective weapon. These beings are highly flammable. Escape groups should strike out for the nearest urban community. Man defense outposts have been established on major arteries leading into all communities. These outposts are equipped to defend refugees and to offer medical and surgical assistance. Police and vigilante groups are in the process of combing remote areas in search and destroy missions, seeking all aggressors. These patrols are attempting to evacuate isolated families, but rescue efforts are proceeding slowly due to the increased danger of nightfall and the sheer enormity of the task. Rescue, for those in isolated circumstances, is highly undependable. You should not wait for a rescue party unless there is no possibility of escape. If you are few against many, you will most certainly be overcome. The aggressors are irrational and demented. Their sole urge is the quest for human flesh. Sheriff Conan W. McClelland of the County Department of Public Protection was interviewed minutes after he and his vigilante patrol had vanquished several of the aggressors. We bring you now the results of that interview. The TV faded and segued to a videotape interview. It was a wide shot, a night scene, dense woods. Posted guards maintained the periphery of a small clearing. Sporadic gunfire was heard in the distance. Some of the men were smoking, some talking in groups. The area was illuminated by a large bonfire. Sheriff McClelland was the focal figure, so that as he talks, we catch glimpses of his activity in the background. He was shouting commands, supervising defense measures, and the burning of the bodies. At the same time, he was trying to answer reporters' questions. McClelland was pacing around, not straying too far. The crackle of the bonfire, the shouts and the bustle of activity can be constantly heard behind his commentary. As he talks, he frequently turns away, his primary concern being his efforts in dealing with the aggressors and controlling his search party. "Yeah, well," he said, "this is rough country for an evening hike." He smiled. "But things aren't going too badly. The men are taking it pretty well. We killed 19 of them today, right around this general area. These last 3 we found trying to claw their way into an abandoned mine shed. There was nobody in there, but these things just pounding and clawing, trying to bust their way in. It's funny in a way," he continued. "They must have thought there was people in there. We heard the racket and came and blasted them down." "What's your opinion then?" asked a reporter. "Can we defeat these things?" McClelland responded, "There ain't no problem. The only problem is whether we can get to them before they kill off all of these people. But me and my men can handle them okay. We haven't lost anybody or suffered any casualties. All you gotta do is shoot for the eyes. You can tell anybody out there. All you gotta do is draw a sharp bead and shoot for the eyes, or beat 'em down and lop their heads off." "Oh, well, okay," said the reporter. "Then I'd have a decent chance, even if I was surrounded by 2 or 3 of them." McClelland responded, "If you had yourself a club or a good torch, you could hold 'em off or burn 'em to death. They catch fire like nothing, go up like wax paper. But the best thing is to shoot for the eyes. Don't wait for us to rescue you, 'cause if they get you too far outnumbered, you've had it. We're doing our best, but we only got so many men and a whole lot of open country to comb." The reporter stopped him. "But do you think you can bring these things under control? Really?" McClelland responded, "We got things in our favor now. It's only a question of time. We aren't for certain how many of them there are, but we know that when we find them, we're able to kill them. So it's a matter of time. They are weak, but there's pretty many of them. So don't wait for no rescue party. Arm yourself to the teeth, get together in a group, and try and make it to a rescue station. That's the best way. But if you're alone, you gotta set up stock still and wait for help. But I promise you, we'll try like hell to get there." before they do. The TV screen began to fade, segueing back to a live announcer. McClelland, emphasizing his point, even as the scene faded out. Tell him to shoot for the eyes. Tell them. The commentator's voice could be heard again. You have heard Sheriff Conan W. McClelland for the County Department of Public Protection. This is your civil defense emergency network, with reports every hour, on the hour, for the duration of this emergency. Remain in your homes. Keep all doors and windows locked. Do not, under any circumstance. Everyone looked angrily towards Ben, who had clicked off the television. Why'd you turn it off? Asked Tom. The man said they only come on every hour, responded Ben. We heard all we need to know, and we gotta get out of here. I agree, said Helen. The man said the rescue stations have doctors and medical supplies. If we could get there, they could help Barbara. Harry scoffed. How are we gonna bust out of here? We got a sick kid and 2 women, one of them out of her head, and 3 men. There's a million of them out there. Tom shook his head. Willard should have a checkpoint there, about 17 miles from here. Ben grew excited at this. Are you from here? Do you know this area? Yeah, responded Tom. I was working in the cemetery across the road. I'm the caretaker. 2 of those things attacked me, and I hightailed it over here. Found everybody wiped out. Not too long after, these other people fought their way in. I was scared, but I opened the basement door and let them in. Unbeknownst to everybody, Barbara has been sitting up listening, but now she speaks, startling them and gathering their attention. She has come down from her hysteria, but is very weak. You work in the cemetery? She asked. My brother is over there. Oh, you poor thing, said Helen. My boy is hurt too. We have to get to that rescue station. The television told us. We have to try and escape. And this, my darling, ends our story time for today. As always, I hope that you have very sweet and creepy dreams. Good night.